Hello, welcome back to Gamebread. This is our third episode, and I'm really excited about that. How about you, Andreas?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. I mean, not only is it the third episode, it's also the last episode of this decade. That's pretty
Jesus,
amazing. It's pretty
that
amazing.
is epic. Yeah, yeah. The most amazing thing is being alive another decade.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
I yeah, I remember the two. Let's see, what is it? It's one, two. I remember the two last ones, especially the ones two times ago,
yeah,
because
because the
everything
millennia,
crashed.
yeah.
Which of course didn't happen.
No, I mean that was of all the like doomsday prophecies, that was probably the most stupid one.
Yeah, definitely. How did you spend your turn of the millennia? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was actually in Malmö and we were watching fireworks. That's all I remember. I mean, I wasn't that old back then. I was 11.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah. All right.
how
Well,
did you
I
how
was
did you spend yours?
I was in a sled. I was on a sled going downhill. That
Okay.
was the thing I wanted to do. Yeah, I don't know.
Just
I don't know.
literally or
For real.
like
No, I was actually
metaphorically in life?
nope. Yeah, right. No, 1999. It was a good year, but yeah, no, I was on a sled in the snow going downhill, just
Yeah.
watching the fireworks. But I just didn't. At the time, I didn't feel like partying or anything. So that was all about. That's all I have to say about
Yeah.
that.
We didn't have
Yeah.
snow actually that year, I think.
Well, maybe you didn't.
Yeah, no, but down south we didn't have any
Mm,
snow.
yeah. I can't remember if there was a lot of snow. It was enough snow to go downhill on, and it might have been grass that we sled on mostly. I don't know.
Yeah. I also
Long
remember
time
another
ago.
thing that was really annoying me though, that it was that you suddenly, instead of saying like 1996, you started saying 2002. And some people tried to force people to say like 22 or like 2001.
Yeah.
It was really, really weird. Personally, I stuck with 2000X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing if you turn it around when you're born. You know, you say you're born in the 80s, the 90s, you did 2000s, and then it's born in the 2010s.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
kind of
for me,
weird.
it's kind of like those people still don't exist, you know? Uh,
Yeah, I guess.
it's just them kids. But
Them kids.
yeah, because,
Mhm,
we're boomers. So what
mm.
can we do? What can we do?
Oh my God, you have to shoehorn that word in
Every,
again.
every episode, man.
It's starting to get tiresome. It's,
Maybe we'll stop with it the next decade, but we'll run with it this decade for sure.
we already did. There's no going back now. All right. So, well, speaking of which, you know, the word segue
Yep.
is that there's a few things that happen actually. There's, you know, when you're going to do these podcasts, it's like the first couple is like, wow, what are we going to talk about next time? And then all of a sudden it's like, there's lots of stuff happening. And this is the same thing like with Stadia. All of a sudden it's just right there. So going back to some nostalgia, which seems to be a theme for us, is do you remember when there's like a PlayStation 2? I mean, that was massive. Or a new Nintendo system. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Even
when
with
the new
video cards.
generation comes out. Yeah.
Yes. Even with video cards, which is kind of still kind of the same though. It's like, wow, here's a new generation. All of a sudden, here's Xbox Series X. First of all, the whole naming discussion, I mean, I don't even want to go into it. I think they could have done a better job
I
because
mean, they
it's starting to
messed
get
up already at the Xbox 360, didn't they?
maybe so. Although that station is still to me quite iconic. It's
Yeah,
an
I
iconic
mean the
station.
name.
And the name is at least has some branding in it, but then all of a sudden, you know, you have all these X's and ones and
Yeah, but I mean, you have the Xbox, right? Then you have
mm-hmm.
the Xbox 360,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, okay, what's going to be next? Is it going to be the Xbox 720? Is it going to be the
Mm-hmm.
Xbox 362?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, it's going to be the Xbox One. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they kind of, if I remember correctly, with the 360, it's because everything was like, uh, it had something to do with the circle, or well, what was it like?
I don't know. I can't even.
It
Even
was
now, it's
something
like
with,
what's it's like what? How old is that station? 12 years,
yeah, good question.
maybe.
I think it came out
Probably.
2006.
Yeah, even more. Yeah, even more. So
2005 maybe. Yeah.
that's too far for me to remember something like that. Maybe you guys are listening. Maybe you can tell us what's
Yeah,
up
no,
with
but
that.
if I remember correctly, it had to do with um, the circle and like the
Mm,
4 controllers being able
sure.
to be connected, and that's the 360. Blah blah blah. And
Yeah,
then the
yeah, yeah.
Xbox One, it had, because it was all in one. It was
Mm, mm.
not only a gaming station, it was also a direct feed to the internet, exactly what you were doing, since you couldn't play offline and you always needed to have a Kinect and stuff. Man, that release was shit.
I remember it actually. I
Yeah,
remember that.
that was
I was sitting watching
horrible.
it live. Yeah, it's like it was. Yeah, so much sports stuff and nonsense that no gamer cared about, and we're trying to broaden out, but no one bought into it.
Yeah,
I remember because I was sitting with my EA colleagues. We were sitting after work watching it, and even those guys were like, this is strange."
yeah, and it was
I
like
can't remember
only
what's a
relevant for NA, I remember, because
right.
it was never released, that function, in Europe that I know, at least. But
Mm,
I remember everybody could watch via the Xbox One, like their favorite football game or something, and then you could cheer and like bet or something
mm.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Never
even a
saw that.
meme, wasn't it? Someone cut a video of that. I can't actually even now remember.
Yeah,
And that was quite recent too. What the word, they kept using a word like TV or whatever, but game much less. It's like TV, your TV here, TV there.
yeah,
NFL, NBA, sports, TV. So like nothing with gaming. Anyway, those guys are funny over there at Microsoft. I if there's you have to respect a survivor
yeah,
because those guys, I mean, how much haven't they screwed up through the years,
yeah.
Microsoft? It's
I mean the
crazy. They
360 though.
still
The
stood around.
360. Yeah, but the 360 was actually amazing. That was the breadwinner for that
Sure.
generation. The 360 was
Yeah.
an amazing console, and then
Yeah.
they messed up everything with Xbox One,
Yeah.
except for the pad though. The pad for Xbox One,
Yeah.
that's god
Controller is
awful.
nice.
Yeah, but it
But you
was
know
for the
what?
360 too. So
Yeah, that controller is very, very nice too.
yeah,
No doubt about it. Even today, I think the PlayStation controllers are flimsy, and even though they're getting more sturdy and a little bit weight to them, they're still flimsy and weird, and you slip off them. And no such thing with the Xbox controllers.
yeah,
Even though there was one the first Xbox, which those controllers were just completely huge. They were huge. So there was I don't know, this might be before your time even when you're playing consoles, but do you remember that with the controllers?
the Duke. I remember the Duke.
Right. So, we had to wait
Before
for
my time, I've been playing console since the NES, if I may.
sure. No, I
Yeah,
didn't know if you were playing, that console at that time,
I was
but
playing them all.
we had to wait for the Japanese versions because they were smaller. The other ones was just like, I don't know, it's like little spaceships you had to hold. But anyway, I digress. So no, funny thing was that with the Xbox though, yeah, like you said, the one thing that they did good, which you have to do when you release a console, is that you have to have game licenses. Without that, it's pointless, right?
Yeah,
Which is why the 360 was so good because it had amazing titles, and I mean it was a solid box which had a long shelf life. So
Y-
that's really good.
yeah, and another thing it had going for it was that it used the same coding as a PC, or what it's called. Uh, well, if the dev kit for the 360 was the same as for PC, while the
Right.
PS3 had a completely different dev kit. So when you were porting games or you were doing multi-platform games, they were always like really good on PC and Xbox, but the PS3 version was trash. Like the only
Mhm.
really good games for the PS3 were only for PS3, like the console
Mm.
exclusives.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you could buy a game on both consoles, then it was always better optimized on the 360 because
Yeah.
of that. But they fixed that with the generation afterwards. This
For sure.
generation, yeah.
I mean, the Xbox One, I had a day one edition, which is very rare. But I mean, because of contacts in the business, I got a day one edition,
I
which
had
I
one
later
too.
sold. There you go.
Yep.
See, good shit. That was a nice little controller you got to there too.
Yep.
And hardware wise, it was nice. You got it at home, and it's like, this is quality stuff. So no doubt.
Yeah.
However, here I feel that the software was just wonky and slow and sluggish, and I never became friends with. I know now it's changed, but that actually made me go with the PS4 as my when it comes to consoles. So, and
Yeah,
today the Xbox Series X now, which came out, which I'm going to lead into. It's just a PC with dedicated video and RAM, and hard drives, for gaming, which is it's not a bad thing. It's just that's what it is. I mean, it's kind of I guess always been going that way, but Microsoft specifically because they also do operative systems. And I was just gonna finish off with you have to respect Microsoft for that because they've been messing up so many things like with the phones and everything, but they're still producing stuff. It's good for Sony to have a good competitor in this space, and so that leads me into the Xbox Series X, saying like it's basically a PC in there, but it's dedicated. Uh, the one thing that worries me a little bit here is that when you look at the video that they kind of released, it's a CG video mashed up gameplay. It's not hardly even gameplay. It's just like CGI stuff, pre-rendered
yeah,
stuff. I'm not that excited about it, and it just feels like again, it's like, oh, here it is. Okay, nothing's leading up to it. There's no, I mean, I'm not sure if it's because of leaks or I don't know. It just feels like a weird marketing campaign for some reason.
yeah.
Same with the PS5.
They can,
PS5 kind of is, it's kind of like, yeah, it's gonna come January 2020.
yeah,
It's like, okay, that was it. I seen one game. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can dive into it, but usually this is all over the place. This is a huge fucking thing. It was
yeah. I mean, there was usually a
2014, 13,
E3
14
thing,
that we
right?
saw latest ones. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it's usually like a big thing on E3, right? It's like
Hmm.
the holy unveiling of the
Hmm.
new console that's gonna come, right?
Mm.
And you're like, oh my god, they're gonna win this year, like because it's always a competition on E3, or it used to be at least, right?
Mm.
You're like, okay, who's gonna win in E3? Is it gonna be Microsoft? Is it gonna be Nintendo? Ubisoft never wins, and then it's like Sony and so on. And like if they unveil a console, they always win. I mean, that's just they
Yeah.
won E3. Uh,
Yeah.
and they usually do a really big thing of it, and they had like a proper lineup that they showed, if I remember correctly, with the
Hmm.
PS4 at least. They had like Knack and those games,
Mm.
that they showed off. uh, so yeah, it feels kind of weird that we got, I mean, at least we got the trailer for the Xbox Series X, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But for the PS5 we only got the date of a game that's going to be released.
That's very strange.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
strange.
But
I
we'll
mean,
see.
and
Maybe they will save it somehow. Maybe
they
they
have
got
to.
something. Yeah.
They have to, and that's interesting. I'm jumping topics slightly, but what usually happens at the end of a console life cycle is that they start producing gadgets and peripherals, and that's what's happening. They are releasing the DualShock 4 with paddles on the back, which some of the third party manufacturers do. Because they have to keep when you're selling a product that people are stopping not buying anymore because something new is coming, then you have to sell them extra stuff to keep sales up. So that's what's happening. So to me it looks like it's legit, like they're following the same pattern that in the market, but we're not seeing any marketing done. We're not really seeing that, not at least yet. It's just that movie, the short movie thing, and we're going to put it here in the video when we put this on YouTube for the Xbox Series X. And it's just not getting me excited. The design itself is also like coming to a very, very, to me, even maybe, I mean, it's very safe. It's a box, but it's
Yeah. I mean, it looks
standing up.
like a
Speaker.
Alexa, or
It
like,
looks like Alexa, or it looks like a air purifier thing.
yeah. I saw a lot of like really creative
Mm.
refrigerator photoshops
Mm.
into it, but I mean,
Mm.
I actually kind of like the design. I gotta say,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's a tower, right? And I was like thinking, okay, how
Like a
is this
server
gonna
tower or something.
look? Yeah,
Mhm.
how is this gonna look in my living room or by my
Mm.
gaming station and so on? And I was like, yeah, I think it's gonna look pretty decent actually.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with that, like graphite black. You can't.
Yeah, no,
And they're gonna probably go with a white version that's gonna come out, and later on maybe a blue or a red or
the,
something
the
like that.
slim version, it's gonna be
Yeah.
like a lava lamp or something.
Love them. Can you imagine though when you're in these meetings and you're taking these decisions? We kind of touched on that last time. And the name, you're the guy that needs to make that decision, and you know if you do it wrong, even if you do it right, you're gonna have so many people making fun of you.
Yeah, but I
Like
mean,
I said, yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was thinking because it's called Series X, right? I wonder what it's gonna be. Like, why is it called Series X? What's the X factor here?
For me, I'd see it as they're probably gonna do like Apple is. You know, they're more and more copying Apple, which means that there's gonna be a Series XS, as in we know that X, X extra small or something XS, and it's gonna be a little bit lighter stuff in there. It's gonna be say 75% of the full price, but maybe you can't run a 4K 60 frames.
Yeah,
You
but I
know.
was thinking usually they implement something new with every generation, right?
Hmm.
Like this generation, or like the PS4 and the Xbox One, it was like the
Hmm.
shareability, right? That you could stream
Mm,
directly from the console, you could share to social media and so on.
mm,
And I mean, the
mm,
generation before that was all about online play, like we talked about last episode, I think. So
Was those
what is it
was
this time? What this
sure, but
generation?
a question for was were those models pricier or cheaper?
What do you mean?
Like you said, you mean between the big you mean like
The
the actual
generations, yeah,
the generations?
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
Because
No, I
there
was
is
just
always
talking
like
about they're gonna.
a
Mhm.
gimmick or like not a gimmick,
Mm.
but like something that defines the generation.
Sure. Yeah, and as I said, I mean, I think that this is just about the 4K 60 frames because I think that's in.
And
There's
VR
nothing else,
maybe. Do you think they're
right?
gonna take the step to VR?
Um, Probably, but I don't not as a selling point. Not it's not the same as like online gameplay or sharing something, streaming. I don't think it's quite a niche thing.
Yeah, but so was the Kinect, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, they gone through those things, and it feels like that's not the path they would like to take again.
Yeah.
But
I
maybe, I mean,
think
you
I
might be right.
also no, and like I'm just throwing the question out there.
Sure.
I don't think that VR would serve the purpose of that very well. I
Mm,
think more that yeah, like 4K, 60 frames per second, etc. That's gonna be the key for sure.
mm. So then that's a good question. I mean, you guys are listening. What's your thoughts about this? What have you heard? I mean, what's the extra stuff? If you look at the box itself, there's definitely there's definitely you can put a CD in there or DVD in there or whatever, Blu-ray in there. So they're
Yeah.
keeping that format. I mean, again, so maybe I sound like a noob here. This maybe s- everybody knows this already, but I'm just brainstorming, right? So you have that. Look at the controller. You have the same of those two buttons. You have the multitask button, you have the menu button, you have everything else, and then there's an additional button they put in there which looks like a share button. I'm guessing that's like a quick stream button, maybe. Uh, but it doesn't show anything else. Uh, so
Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm kind of happy it still got discs though because I really like to buy my physical copy still. Like I like it in my shelf, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I'm like
Even
you
though
too.
I've like later days I've pretty much always bought like downloadable versions because I'm
Mm,
lazy. But
mm,
I kind of really like to have the physical copy of the games I really like, and I like to display them in my game shelf, which is
mm,
way too large to
mm.
fit in my apartment. But
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'm from a time where you had paper boxes, carton boxes.
yeah.
I love that. The
It,
bigger, the better.
but do you remember the sacrilege when NES came out and people would throw away the boxes because it was like, if you bought like a thing and it was in a box, you just threw away the box if it was
Mhm.
like something for the kitchen or whatever. And you did that with the NES games as well. You were like, Super Mario Bros. Here is the uh, cartridge, right? There's the
Yeah,
box. Just throw the box away. We don't need that shit, you know.
yeah,
And like when you think of it, that now, you were like, damn, we should have burned those people on the stakes or something.
yeah.
Uh, terrible.
Idiots.
Yeah, how dare they?
How dare you? Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, but that's a very interesting thing. That it's a big drop of one of the supposed to be one of the big things. There's a few games I've seen for it. Definitely, you'll see Halo, and you'll see those things, and some specific titles. But I don't know, the 4K 60 frames. That's another question. And this is a question to you. Which is more important to you, resolution or frame rate?
Frame rate,
I'm with you
100%.
on that too. Everything that it's much more important to me that the game is not that it's a good that it carries good frames rather than a high resolution.
Yeah, I mean it has to be fluid, but it also comes with the games I like to play, right?
Sure.
For example, with fighting games or any kind
Hmm.
of games that require like quick movement or that you need to be able to be see what happens on the screen really quickly. Like if I play like Hearthstone or something, I'm not that much about the FPS, right? Or if I
Mm.
play anything like a JRPG or so, because it's not that important. But when it comes to like action games, when it comes to sport games, fighting games, whatever, then you really want to crank the FPS up, right?
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that allow for a good frame rate. One, the hardware, no doubt. This is raw horsepower of the flops and everything. And then you have, of course, fidelity of the game, which many people forget about. When you something that's optimized usually is about what can we turn off that the player won't see. What can we lower? What can we remove that the player doesn't see, or at least isn't in visible range or just in front of the eyes to fool the player that it looks the same, but it's more frames per second. So that's what optimization is. Yes, there are going to be strings of code here and there that's going to be maybe not the best, and that's also part of it. But usually it's about cutting corners to find a perfect middle road. You know.
Yeah, I mean, if the player can't see the entire world, then why render the entire world, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's of course, and that's what you do today. There's unless it's VR, you don't render anything else but what's in the view. And there was an article about that's floating around that people are commenting on, and there's some that are actually stating the fact that well, that's not strange. That's how it's supposed to be. And then people were like, oh, what? Oh, they're fooling they're fooling the player. Well, you want good frame rates and good fidelity, then you need those textures in there. And so why would you show render anything that's not in front of the player? So
Yeah, and it's
then
kind
there's
of
of course
interesting.
next.
Like if you think back of like earlier games, they were also doing like the fog, So it's
Sure.
like the render distance, and in some games, it you didn't think of it then so much, but if you play it today, you were like, oh my god, how could I play this shit? Because you can only
Mm,
like see your hand in front of you. Everything else is not rendered. Do you
mm.
remember there was like this South Park game on Nintendo 64 where you threw like snowballs at turkeys and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Try and play that today. It's incredible how the draw distance is non-existent on that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And like I remember, if I remember correctly, Silent Hill, they made that fog because of that, and then they
Mm,
just kind of made it smartly implemented into the game.
yeah. For sure. Right. So again, yeah. I mean, 4K 60 frames. That's just, I guess, where we are today. I run my G-Sync monitor and DSR, which is you upscale graphics, and which means that you can run 4K and whatever you want on actually in a monitor that just displays less pixels, but it ups the pixel density. It's really nice actually. If you have a nice video card, I have a decent video card. I got a 1080, so it can crank out those frames. For example, which I'll talk about later, but playing Jedi Fallen Order, so playing that in 4K, and it carries, I cap it at 90 frames, and it works really nice. So it's a cheap way of getting into 4K. I have a 4K TV, which I sometimes connect the PC to, and if I want to do something
Yeah, well,
like a
how
more
is the
arcade game, like
distance for you?
Batman. Hmm? The
How is the
distance,
no, not the distance, the difference I meant.
a 4K versus a full HD.
Yeah, like when you up the pixel density, and then
Uh huh.
you like, let's say, then you switch over to the 4K TV. How big is the difference for you personally?
Well, there's of course a difference because the TV has it's a difference in. I mean, at the moment I can't remember all the technical mumbo jumbo that goes in between, but how how the dark pixels and how the black the black how the what's the word I'm looking for? Well, the contrast, like the contrast is different from on a TV versus a screen, of
Yeah.
course. So the TV, even though it's a native 4K, I think it's even an 8K or something like that. It's a OLED, so it's really nice. LG TV. It masks a little bit of it too, so everything's going to look better from a distance on a TV, but it doesn't mean it's going to look sharp and to the point of what it's supposed to be. Because there's certain things like you need when you're playing a game like playing FPS, the super high contrast when there's less colors shown because they blend in. There's more dark. The dark becomes even more dark. Light becomes even more light. Some of the texture fidelity and texturing disappears a little bit. I mean, you guys, you probably know what I'm talking about. So if you want to show something off to a friend, you might want to do it on a TV because it's also bigger. It's a 55-inch monitor versus 24 or 25, whatever I have. But when you're playing something with a mouse, the area you have to move your hand around and use, I mean, yeah, it transfers, sure, but it's more compact on a smaller screen, so it's more manageable. So it depends on if I want to do something with skill or just enjoy it. For example, if I have a game as Batman Arkham Knight, which is it's more of a third person moving around and doing things that I'm watching. I'm playing, say I hook up a controller, then the TV is awesome. But if you want to do something like we've been playing Warhammer Total War, I definitely do that with a mouse, a keyboard, and my screen.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
So I can utilize both, but as a PC main PC gamer, I play more on my as probably like an 80-20 or 85-15 split, more towards my just regular screen. But I mean, it looks great. Like the DSR makes a 4K look fantastic, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's about that. Um, do you have anything to add about this or with this discussion, Andreas?
No, I think like with the Xbox Series X and the PS5, it's just gonna be interesting to see what comes next year, um, like what they will show, and actually, I want to see the PS5 how it actually looks. The only thing we've seen so far are the dev kits, and I mean, those are dev kits, so
Mm.
we have no idea how the actual product will look. So
Yeah, we don't know
it's gonna
exactly.
be interesting. It's gonna be interesting, and I want to see games. I want to see more games.
Yeah, I agree completely. And you guys are listening. Will you be getting any of them? And if you're getting one of them, which one are you getting? Very important. Very interesting. So let's move on. I wanted to talk, Andreas. I want to talk a little about something I've just been trying out as something we haven't mentioned this time around. Is I work as a product manager for Wasder. This is a Wasder.gg podcast. And Andreas is part of Wasder as well. So we are doing some cool stuff for streamers, and so I've been playing around a little bit with Twitch Studio. Twitch is one of the latest software drops, which is something, as they like to call it, something for the beginning streamer to just get up and started really quick because there's no middleware needed. When I was streaming a little bit just for fun a couple of years ago, I used OBS and you connected that up to Twitch, and you did all these things, to capture your screen and to send it to Twitch and out. And I'm quite good at when it comes to administering these things, and I still found it to be a little bit difficult to get perfect and get up and going. Not super hard, but and this was a couple of years ago. It's going to be easier today with any of these Streamlabs and OBS and these things. But this Twitch Studio stuff, even though the design is super minimalistic and might not be the nicest thing I've seen in the world, it's just very easy to use. It's a couple of clicks and boom, you're going.
Yeah, I
It's
haven't
easy
seen
to
it.
understand.
Can you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, so it's a desktop app. You download it. There's a walkthrough when you install it where you can pick things. So I want to stream in this view. I want to stream with this bit rate, and I want to capture this part of the screen. And as soon as you have it set up, it takes that's 2-3 steps, and then you see your screen, and then you can pick from what you got up. You have your browser, you can pick that, or you have your game, you can pick that. So it takes from your Windows screens. Windows, when you alt tab, you'll have all your screens. So you just pick one of those. So that feels kind of safe too, because then you're not showing your desktop unless you want to, and you can easily click off your microphone and put on your webcam or whatever you want to do, and then you just hit stream and you're going. Super simple, very simple.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's about that. That's something really clever. So here's an interesting thing though. I mean, I'm quite sure that unless you're asking other people and they're gonna recommend you these other software things, third-party stream tools, that you're probably going to start with Twitch Studio and how that's positioned, looking at their how they are relying still on these other partners to have streamers actually produce content. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that they choose to do this, but probably because they're seeing that people are struggling to get started and to do it simply
Yeah,
and such.
I'm trying to think of the user journey when you start streaming. What do you do? If you've never streamed before, uh, and let's say you're on PC for the sake of the argument, what you're gonna do is Google probably, how do I stream? And then you're gonna see like, okay, most people they talk about XSplit or Streamlabs usually as what they use to stream, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you're gonna find them. So how is Twitch going to put their option in front? They're probably gonna show it on the Twitch page, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So
That's how you find it. You go to Twitch and you'll have your panels that because they've done some redesign, and it's quite visible. It's like Twitch Studio, a beginner's thing, blah blah blah, to start streaming. It's right there, so it's easy to find if you go to actual Twitch. But yeah, I mean, there's always a discrepancy if you're someone that don't really know what Twitch or Mix or anything is, and then you start googling, and then you find a different path,
yeah,
maybe.
I mean, but that's how it has been, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So now that the first thing when that idea hits you is probably that you're gonna look around on Twitch, like, okay, how do I stream?
Hmm.
Maybe you've just been a regular viewer, right? It's not 100% sure that you know about like Streamlabs and OBS and so
Yeah.
on, right? So the first thing you're gonna look at that's actually on Twitch homepage itself, and like, okay,
Hmm.
where do I stream? And then you're gonna see that, and if
Mm.
that's the only option you see, then that's probably what you're gonna start with, especially since it's beginner friendly, right?
Mm. Mm.
Even though Streamlabs has done a really good job of making theirs very easy to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I started streaming on OBS, you actually had to like copy code a lot into
Yeah.
the actual program. So yeah, it's become a lot easier to manage.
Much easier, and I think for Twitch here, they have a stance where I mean, there's not a monopoly, so they have to tread lightly in saying that if they cut everything else out, then you have new streamers that are going to go elsewhere, because people usually you want to have the option, not be forced. Even though it's a better option somewhere maybe, and then at least you're not getting forced. You have to use this, so they have to tread lightly in what they do. They don't want to cut out their partners because people use it. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to follow. I think they've done a good job with getting people up and running quickly. I mean, for something like this, like if we want to do a live podcast, which is probably going to happen, then it's super easy. It's one click and we're up and going. And this is on Twitch, so it's they've done a good job to me. I think, in my opinion.
Sounds good.
All right, cool. So that's about Twitch Studio, guys. Let me know and let us know what you think about your capture software and your streaming software. That'd be great for us to hear. And so I want to mention that too, that we're doing some cool stuff for you. I mentioned in the beginning, one of the things is the ability to schedule your streaming and to be able to tell all your followers and fans across social media, which is super, super nice because we're automating everything for you. One click, basically, will tell everyone on all your platforms, if you connected them to Wasder, that you're up and running. So it's a go live status that goes out to all your platforms. And we're going to syndicate, which means we're going to, everything that happens with that, say, tweet, will send back to Wasder. And you can engage in it there together with your Facebook and your Instagram and everything. It's cool stuff. And we have an extension on Twitch as well. So please check that out and tell us what you like about it, because we want to continue bettering everything we do. And it's easy to sign up if you're listening to this for the first time. Let's go to wasder.gd and start signing up. And we're in beta right now, but we're going to go live quite soon. So if you have any input, let us know, and we'll have a chat. All right. You know what? I'd love to talk a little bit more about, because we did. I've already talked. It's actually a game that I have already covered, but I would love to hear about your thoughts about it, because what I did was that I drug
Dragged.
dragged I fooled Andreas into coming and playing Warhammer Total War 2 with me. So right now, him and I are playing, and we're playing, what are we playing? We're playing Lizard Men, which is awesome. I have some cool anecdotes about it, but we're playing Lizard Men, and we are trying to survive in this hunt for the eye of the vortex. Right now, I'm playing co-op gameplay. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about the game.
Yeah,
Now
for
that we've been
sure.
playing.
I mean, it's my type of game for sure. I really like these turn-based strategy games. Uh, the ones that where you feel, okay, I just want to do one more round, one more round, one more round. Like I get stuck on all of them, and it ruins my sleep. It ruins my life because I just keep thinking only one more round. I mean, Football Manager was like that, even though it's not a strategy game per se. Well, it is kind of, but it's also like, okay, just one more day, and then you have like Civilization is like that, um, and this is like that too, and it's really, I love the world and the setting. I love how they made the races and the different like branches of the races, because they're quite diverse, and it's like a lot of different factions, way more than I thought there would be. So it feels like, even though if you play the game from beginning to end with one race, like a whole campaign, there is still a lot to explore, depending on where you start on like the world map and so on. And they have quite a lot of different um, traits or like specialities. I actually tried out when we weren't playing because you were away or something. I tried to do a single player campaign with some kind of dark elves, I think. And their like key was to like capture slaves and stuff instead to improve the economy. Well, with lizardmen you don't have that at all. Or I don't know if they're called lizardmen. I just call them lizardmen, but
Yeah, they're actually called Lizardmen.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there we see. Uh, and there you can, for example, instead like you can eat your captives to restore your troops, for example. Um, so it's interesting that it's quite different. Like the technology trees and so on is quite different as well. And yeah, the troops are different because you're strong at different things. And then it also has like this old Heroes of Might the Magic 3 feeling where you like level up your hero and stuff. It has like a good touch of that. And then the battles, I think the battles are, I like them a lot. Like they're really cool. But it's feels like quite an investment every time you're going to battle because it takes a lot of time. I mean, that's kind of the charm with it as well, but there is something there that is not perfect for me personally because I think it would be easy for me to just auto resolve often because I just want to play the the big game more than the small game, which is the small game being the actual fights. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's sometimes it feels like it's halting progression, especially going in the later stages. Say that you have 5 major armies in different parts, and then every round you might have 5 of those battle, and most of them are quite important. So it's like half chance of if the computer calculates you get a power bar, and then you're hesitant because okay, I'm gonna go in and play this, and oof, it's gonna take a lot out of me, and it's gonna take maybe say it takes 35 minutes to do, and then you have 5 of those, and then it's a round that takes 2.5 hours all of a sudden instead of 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and you don't and you want to maybe so because you get a less of a chance to win if you let the computer do it unless you have a very high chance of winning because of the power bar. So I understand that, but as you say, it's also the charm because it's like okay, shit, here we go. I might lose all this 20,000 gold army that I have.
Yeah, but it's also like a quite a spectacle to watch, which is cool, right? But I think also I need to learn a lot more. I need to, for me personally, I'm like a person who likes to know all the details. I like to know what I need to do to gain the best advantages. I want to know exactly what's good against what, how I should position them, all that kind of stuff, and then I would like to optimize it for every time I fight so I get better and better. But feel like personally I haven't put in enough time to understand all the small details of the actual battles.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's also you're speaking my language now because that's what I like to do too.
Yeah.
And then there's a velocity of doing that, and that's also why I liked what you said previously. Like there's a lot of different races, so there's a lot of replayability in this, and also the first game, this game, and the coming third game that they have about they'll have 2 to 3 campaigns each where you can actually they fit together. There's a overarching story between the games. So I like that. So you can let it take a little bit of time. And then it tells you quite well. You just have to remember some of the things like that when you're in a battle and you mark one of the troops, and I mean you can read about this too, of course, in this encyclopedia, but then you just hover over them and it's like low threat, medium threat, high threat. So you learn that pikemen are good against cavalry. Cavalry is good against archery. Archery is good against, as long as they're long range, against any type of troop on his except cavalry because they'll come quick at you, and so they'll have to move. And swordman is good against, well, etc., etc.
Yeah. But well, what I think is this is the kind of game, that makes me consume a lot of YouTube content because I want to know what other people say. What kind of strategies do they use?
Mm.
Or I will probably watch like hours of like how to play Total War Warhammer 2. Like it's always like that with these kind of games for me because I need to understand what's going on, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
and that's why it's kind of nice, when that's not given to you for free because it forces you to go out and find like content creators, and they usually do a lot better job than the actual developers when it comes to teaching the games, right? Because they're really good at it. So
For sure. Enthusiasts. I mean, that's I think it's at the core of consuming content and playing games too. That, you're around people that like the same stuff.
yeah, exactly. But so yeah, that's like my 5 cents about the game. Uh, I really like it, and I'm looking forward to learn more about it as I go.
Yeah, me too. And it's fun playing. We're gonna let's do a few rounds after this podcast or later. We'll see.
Yep.
It's good. Yeah, but and my final note is that is especially specifically there in the battles there, when you're starting to find the things that work, you're kind of rewarded because they probably do work. It's not a coincidence that if you're you're starting to notice patterns. You'll see that they'll go and try to flank with the cavalry usually, right? So you want to protect your flanks. It sounds simple, but you have to do it on the fly. Okay, we'll do that formation, a wedge formation, or and something I like to do, which it's still just experimental, but you once you start breaking formation because you see you have an advantage doing so, sometimes you have to do that. It's just you as a commander have to decide like now we're breaking formation because we need
Yeah.
to break their formation. And then when you see that you're starting to win, okay, let's pull back in formation and move everyone up. And you do these things in there that gives you a few advantages. So it's nice when you get it rewarded and it actually works. I like that.
Yeah,
But I do
exactly. I
have.
think I
Mhm.
think there was like one battle we fought where we decided to put a couple of troops in the forest hidden. And when they marched up, we were actually able to ambush them from one side with the troops, and it kind of pulled a section of their army away, and we just absolutely annihilated all of them. And that's
Yeah, that
like,
that was the big one. That was one of the ones that we could have we made that decision to do that strategy because it was weighing over to their side, if I don't remember
yeah,
incorrectly.
it was something like that, and we were like, wait, this was like a walk in the park. But I feel
Mm,
like then you get really rewarded because you feel smart doing it as well, right?
mm, mm.
And it's like when you have the understanding of how to properly use the terrain to your advantage, you know
Yeah.
how to position your troops, or like, okay, what do I expect will come out of this fight, and how should I like, if you split your army into two parts, right? How what's the ratio? Where how many bowmen should I have? How many
Mm, mm,
uh, swordsmen should I have? Should I actually split them like 50-50, or should I have like separate like swordman group here and like a bowman group here that can use the
mm,
terrain better or something like that? That's the
mm.
kind of stuff I like to study.
Yeah,
So we'll see, we'll see.
completely agree. Yeah. And I thought that was my last, but this is, but lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter. No, but yeah, and then I was gonna mention. Yeah, I was gonna mention that. So when we're playing co-op, then it means that if it's my battle, I can gift Andreas a couple of troops or whatever, so he can manage them. And if you played in well together, then that's an advantage. If you don't, then it's worse because you have to communicate on what to do. But that's the stuff. For example, if I give Andreas my faster troops or my monster troops, and then he can start pestering the opposition, especially if they're standing still. You can lure some of them away and then just take those troops out, and all of a sudden it's an even playing field. And then we do our things. That's again stuff where you get rewarded by that, and when you get played in, you get even better. So you got a winning formula, which is nice because you're actually putting your brain to use in some form. You're just not
Yeah,
rushing them.
and it's like it's nice to be able to work together, you know. And
Yeah.
it's also like when you're playing too, and you like, if you gift something to me and I act like a libero on like the flank or something, I can continuously actively work with those troops. If you're alone, you have to like skip in between those two
Mm.
segments all the time, right?
Yeah, and we had some also. It's great because specifically in the beginning and in my major troop, you have two monster troop. One is Stegadon. It's just funny though because the lizardmen have like dinosaurs type stuff. It's just funny, right? And he's just stomping right in there, and he's just head butting these little miniature troops. They're flying 100
Yeah.
yards, just exploding in blood. It's amazing. Which brings me to one of the anecdotes I was going to tell you, because I mentioned that there's some humor in this, obviously, and one of the things that I noticed is that my lord, when he's in diplomacy or talking with other factions, he keeps referring to them condescendingly as Grimlock, which is amazing. Blah blah blah, you Grimlock, something like that. Grimlock, for those who are not into that type of fandom, it's one of the Dinobots from Transformers, which is amazing. So there's a couple of those things that's really clever and that I laugh about every time. Or just seeing a little lizard guy on a big pterosaur, whatever these flying, the flying lizard thing is just so much fun. Anyway, moving on from that. So I'm just quickly, very quickly, because I started playing Jedi Fallen Order. I said I was gonna do that, so I subbed to Origin Access. I've been playing it. So
Okay,
I
tell me
think
about it.
I will tell you about it. You can't get away from it. So I have to say that the presentation is just stunning. Some of the planets and how how the game is started. No intro. It's just a swooping thing where you're going in around this industrial place, and you zoom into the antagonist, well, sorry, protagonist, and how the personalities are done and everything, and the graphical fidelity at 4K. I don't think Star Wars ever looked this good. Sound design, fantastic. I mean, this is the Frostbite engine at its finest, no doubt. I knew this was going to be a non-traditional hack and slash game. It is not a hack and slash game. It very much reminded me of Uncharted on console, if you ever played that. So,
Yep.
which means that the action bits are very far apart, far, and they're few and far apart. Mostly, it's about solving physical puzzles, as in you're side jumping from walls, you're climbing, and you're swinging and stuff. Um, and that's not really my thing. I noticed that because, and this also pertains to me when I'm playing it on I had to hook up my controller because when I was on my keyboard, it started to become too many different combos of buttons because you have to be precise when you're blocking and when you're parrying, right? So it didn't feel good. So I was just swapping to my controller, hooked that up, and it's a little glitchy. My controller, it glitches out, so that also lowered my, because that's not about the game. That's because my peripherals are shit. So, but it's quite relentless that you, like, for example, when you're jumping over to grab a line, and and you're swinging across into another jump. It doesn't really visually tell you exactly how far it is. The sense of depth and shit is a little bit off, at least for me. It might be me that's just a noob. So I keep getting quite punished, I think, even though I feel like I'm doing exactly the same thing, and then all of a sudden I grab something. Also, what I don't like is that when you jump up to something and he grabs it, then you have to hit a button for him to stay on it. Otherwise, you just fall, which is kind of weird to me because you don't have to in other games. If he's grabbed something, you grabbed something. And it also doesn't really, in the beginning, tell you if you say that you're attacked by two people, should I hold down block? Will he auto block? Or, it's kind of like you're just thrown in there and you have to find out the hard way. And so you keep dying. If you keep dying, you lose a little bit of health until you're completely lost, and then it resets you, which is, I guess it's fine. But the problem with that, if you combine that with all those mechanics, it's a little bit unfriendly. But then again, I prefer more hack and slash type game where you're a little bit more power fantasy stuff, right? But then customization is nice. You can customize things with replayability. Uh, it is much shorter than I thought about 12 hours. I said last time. I don't think it is because I played the main story and not finished, but I played the main story through 2 planets, and you can go back and do more stuff, side quests, right? But that took me, I don't know, it's maybe an hour per planet, maybe. And that's 25%. That
Yeah.
brings me up to like 4 to 6 hours, maybe full gameplay. But that's quite short. But that's okay. Like I said, if it's polished, I'll take it. I can go back and do more stuff later. It was a little bit weird, but some of the stuff is amazing. Like there's one part where you hijack an AT walker. I mean, come on, and you're just blasting stuff to shit. A whole base you blow up basically. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like the
Hmm.
fantasies you had back in the days when you watched
Hmm.
Star Wars.
Hmm.
Because I remember like the walkers were always like so amazing from the
Hmm.
first time you saw them, and like in every game, they were doing like, I remember in one game they had the scene, uh, but you actually played it where you have like the small starship, uh, and you fly around and you bind the legs of the walker,
Hmm.
like that scene, and that's something that's been iterated into video games a lot of times, and it's always cool.
Hmm.
And now you can like actually hijack walkers and stuff. It's kind of cool, like that you can do all these things now compared to
Absolutely.
before. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to wrap this up, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm going to wrap this up a little bit. Um, there's 2 more things that is a little bit annoying to me, and that's the map. I don't like the map. How that's done. It's kind of holographic. I like to have a more of a clear go here thing, but because they made the planets revisitable, it's more like this is accessible, this is closed, and you don't really know what to do. You'll just have to figure it out. And if you're that kind of guy that likes to do that, a girl that likes to kind of do that, person who likes to figure things out. Oh, here's a plan to figure everything out, so it's not straightforward. Then this game's definitely for you. There's lots of that stuff, like moving balls around to big huge balls with the force. You push them around and it hits certain buttons, and then something falls down. It's like Indiana Jones stuff. Okay, if you like that this is for you. Um,
Well, is it
I
like
also
puzzle solving or?
Yeah, it's so physical puzzle solving. There's a lot of that stuff. Side
Oh, okay,
path, go
okay.
here with it. So there's nothing really telling you straightforward. There is, but again, then that's the bad map coming in, and so I got a little bit like I don't really want to show you this and that, and it's like I'm not really sure. I like a little bit more solid. Go here. If you don't want to go here, that's fine, but we're not going to tell you about it right now. Now it's like open space, do whatever you want, and you can go here and finish what you want. Um, and there's this again. This is if you're like that type of gameplay. This is where I recognize Dark Souls in these games. Like the combos have a certain rate of frames. It's like this animation that's kind of doing the exact same thing, and the enemies will keep their pattern. So if you say you swing 2 times and there's a longer time between animation, it's hard for you to execute the third one faster, even though you see the other guy coming in, right? So if you've done 2, then you're screwed. So you're gonna get hit. I mean, you can roll out, you can do that, but so that creates a little bit of clunkiness to me, but it's okay. I can live with it. All in all, I know you hate middle scores. I know that, but I'm going to use it anyway. At this point, at 25% in, which is of course not the full thing. I mean, great story, presentation is nice, superb graphical fidelity, sound, and this stuff. That to me brings it up to a 4, but I have to bring it back to a half for these little things, and that might be just me. But I'll do a 3.5 for this.
So a 4.
It's a 3.5.
No, that doesn't exist. Now you choose a 3 or a 4. Get no none of the halves. You know we don't do half toasts here.
Well, then it's a 3, and I'll have to consider a 4 when I finish the game.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but 3 is super solid. 3 is a super solid score. That's still a lot of value for money. So don't get me wrong. If you like Star Wars, if you like that type of gameplay where you do these puzzles and you climb and you run around a lot and you get excited about that, then it's definitely a 4.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's all I had. What do you have?
Well, there is a new season for Street Fighter coming out. Like, for those who has listened before, they know that I play a lot of Street Fighter. Like, that's my main game. It's what I practice. It's what I compete in. And season 5 has come out now. Well, it's like officially starting next year, but season 4 ended, and they're like, okay, season 4 has now ended. And one season is 1 year long, right? So here is season 5, and these are the changes we have done to the characters to balance them. So, for example, if they're weaker characters, they buff them a bit, so they become better. And then if there are characters that are really strong, they try to bring them down a bit, so that characters become quite so that all characters can compete. That's like the end goal. But there is always going to be characters that are better. It's just how it is. So those changes came out, and usually, like the earlier years, they have kind of been a bit safe with their choices. But it feels like now they actually added a new thing called V skill 2, which is like a fundamental move for each character that define them in a way. So since they introduced the V skill 2, you can choose between V skill 1 and 2, and it kind of changed the character a lot. And some of these V skill 2s are bonkers. It's crazy how much it changes everything up, and it feels like you got to relearn the entire game again. So there is a lot of labbing to do and practicing and trying to find out, optimized combos, how to get the best situations, and then like how to counteract all the other characters V skill 2, because there is like right now 39 characters, and another one is getting released in February. with the release of Champion Edition. So then that's going to bring us up to 40 characters. So that's 40 matchups you got to know, or 39. And then all of them have 2 different V triggers, which is like the comeback factor. So it's like you take a lot of damage and then you can activate your V trigger, and that turns you into like the super version of the character for a little while. So you become really strong. So there's 2 different types of those, and then there is 2 different V skills. And V skills are tied into the V trigger system in a way. It's how you build it. So there is a lot to learn. If you want to be ready for the next season. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I was thinking it's quite new now, so I need these couple of weeks. I need this Christmas to actually work on it and see what I think. But my first impression is that they went crazy with this one. All the characters are crazy. Do you know Guile, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you know his traditional. Um, he shoots his sonic boom, right? It goes across the screen. If they jump, he does his somersault kick, the flash kick.
Yeah.
That's traditional Guile. He walks back, he throws booms at you, and if you try to jump them, he kicks you out of the air. It's really annoying to fight against. Well, now they added his V skill too. He jumps forward and throws a sonic boom downwards. So not only are you blocking sonic booms trying to get in on him because he's like, nah, you ain't getting in. I'm gonna stand here on the other side of the screen and just annoy you to death.
Wow.
Now he actually jumps at you and throws fireballs downwards as well. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And they gave the most mobile character a dash all over the air. So he was already mobile before and flying across the screen, and now he can dash all over in the air too. It's like you're
What's
watching Dragon Ball or some shit.
what's the motivation
Yeah,
for that from a developer standpoint?
well, if the meta turns stale, the hype for the game kind of dies down. And if your options continue to become the same, it's more like you're just grinding the same and same options and the same situations all the time, and it kind of turns boring in the end. With this, it's like, okay, now all of the characters are bonkers, all of them are crazy, and since your character is crazy and my character is crazy, it's still kind of fair, you know.
Oh, for sure.
And
Oh,
there is
so
there is that, it's like it adds that spice to it.
I understand. So,
Yeah.
but from when you are, how much does it this? I mean, from what I hear, it's a lot. But from compared to like a normal game, a normal match, how much does that in affect? Will you have is it a completely new, clean slate, or is it, oh, here's another tool I can use somewhere in there?
Well, if hmm, it's a little bit, sorry, it's a little bit character specific. But for example, if the new tool that they have is really strong and you do not know how to deal with it, you will lose. It's that simple. If you take a traditional Ryu, for example, throwing fireballs, and if you jump, then he does a shoryuken and you fly back, and then you start blocking fireballs again. If you do not know how to deal with that situation, you're gonna lose by them just spamming one move. And for some of them, these new V skills adds one of those elements that if you do not know how to handle it, you will just lose. So you have to go and study, you have to go try it out in the lab, or you will lose. It's that simple.
Sure.
So yeah,
Hmm.
it's big.
Okay.
Some of them, they because you trade out your old V skill for the new one, but some of them have like really strong old ones, so they will continue to use the old ones because they're so strong, right?
Yeah.
But some of them have really revamped new ones, so it's going to be cool and see what people do, and it's going to be cool to see how it plays out the coming year. But I'm going to try out a lot of stuff, and I'll get back to it next
All
decade,
right.
I think.
Next decade, yeah. Clever. I mean, the couple of weeks for this thing, it sounds pretty important. So
Yeah,
best of luck to you.
thanks. Well, I have to be ready by March. That's when the season starts. And I won't be ready by March, I can tell you that.
Oh man. Yeah, you have to put this is every character you have to factor in, right?
Yeah, and I have to become really good with my character as well.
Mm.
So we'll see.
Well, sounds good. Probably
Yeah,
gonna get good. Yeah, and then you can come up and try to play against me, and I will have to beat you.
you can try.
Yeah,
You can
good
try.
stuff. Yeah, I'm not winning anything nowadays. It's just how it is. All right, so cool stuff. I hope we gave you some interesting points to think about. Let us know what you thought. If you have any feedback or anything, let us know. Check out wasder.gg and come talk to us there, and check out our stream tools and everything else. You know what? This is the last one, as you said. So Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, if that's your thing. Happy New Year's, and we'll see you in 2020.